Evolution isn't a perfect engineer. It's a lazy one. It doesn't design the best possible version of anything. It just keeps whatever barely worked well enough to survive, and papers over the rest. And nowhere is that clearer than in the human body itself, which is, frankly, held together with evolutionary duct tape. Take your throat. Humans share a single passage for both breathing and swallowing, meaning every bite of food you eat travels dangerously close to your windpipe. Choking is one of the only major causes of death that comes standard, built directly into human anatomy. Most other animals don't have this problem nearly as badly. We do, because that shared passage was repurposed millions of years ago for something else entirely: speech. The same design that lets you talk is the same design that can kill you with a poorly chewed piece of steak. Even your nerves take absurd detours. The nerve controlling part of your voice box doesn't take a direct route from your brain. It travels all the way down into your chest, loops around a major blood vessel near your heart, then travels back up to your throat. In giraffes, the same nerve stretches for several feet, doing the exact same unnecessary loop. It's a leftover routing path from fish ancestors, where that path actually made sense, before necks got longer and nobody redesigned the wiring. Then there's your spine. It was originally built for a four-legged animal, evenly distributing weight along a horizontal line. Then humans stood up. The spine didn't get redesigned. It just got twisted into an S shape and forced to support the entire weight of the body vertically instead. That's why lower back pain affects the vast majority of adults at some point in their lives. You're not just unlucky. You're running bipedal software on quadrupedal hardware. Your knees weren't really built for what you now ask them to do either. Quadrupedal knees distribute weight across 4 flexible joints. Bipedal knees became larger and more complex, forced to bear the body's entire weight through repeated impact with every single step, run, and jump. It's one of the most common injury sites in the entire human body, precisely because the meniscus and ligaments are absorbing forces the original quadrupedal design was never meant to handle alone. Your jaw used to be bigger, much bigger. Early human diets required more chewing surface, so the jaw evolved to comfortably fit 3 rows of molars. But as diets softened and brains grew larger, taking up more skull space, the jaw shrank. The teeth didn't get the memo. Wisdom teeth are a leftover instruction from a jaw that no longer exists, which is why so many people need them surgically removed just to avoid infection and overcrowding. Here's a darker one. Human childbirth is uniquely dangerous compared to almost every other mammal, and it comes down to a straightforward evolutionary conflict. Walking upright required a narrower pelvis for efficient movement, but bigger brains required a wider skull to fit through it. Those two pressures pulled in opposite directions at the same time. The result is what scientists call the obstetric dilemma. Human babies are born earlier and less developed than other primates, specifically because waiting any longer would make birth even more dangerous than it already is. Even reproduction comes with a strange trade-off. In most male mammals, sperm production works best a few degrees cooler than core body temperature, which is why they sit outside the body entirely. That positioning solves a temperature problem, but creates an entirely new one. One of the most sensitive, injury-prone areas on the entire human body, with essentially no protective structure covering it at all. Your eyes have a design flaw that a decent engineer would never approve. The retina, the part of your eye that senses light, is wired backwards. The nerves and blood vessels sit in front of the light-sensing cells instead of behind them, blocking part of the light before it even arrives. This creates a blind spot in each eye, a small area where you literally cannot see anything at all. Your brain quietly fills in the gap with guessed information, so you never even notice. The appendix is often called a useless leftover organ, evolution's equivalent of a line of code nobody bothered to delete. It likely once helped digest tougher plant material in ancient ancestors. Now it mostly just sits there, doing very little, until one day it can suddenly become inflamed, infected, and life-threatening, for zero ongoing benefit. At the very base of your spine is a small, curved bone called the coccyx, the last remaining trace of a tail your distant ancestors once had. It serves a minor role today, anchoring a few muscles, but its main claim to fame is how easily it fractures in a hard fall, causing real pain with no evolutionary benefit left to justify its presence. Look at your arm the next time you're cold or scared. The tiny bumps that appear are called goosebumps, and they're not doing anything for you anymore. In animals covered in thick fur, that same reflex pulls hairs upright, trapping insulating air, or making the animal look larger to a threat. Humans lost most of our body hair thousands of generations ago. The reflex, however, stayed completely intact, quietly triggering for a fur coat you no longer have. Even hiccups might be an evolutionary leftover. One theory suggests the reflex originated in ancient amphibian ancestors that breathed through both lungs and gills, requiring a mechanism to quickly close off the airway underwater. It's a genuinely debated idea among scientists, not settled fact. But if true, every hiccup is a tiny echo of a breathing system your ancestors abandoned hundreds of millions of years ago. Nearly every mammal can manufacture its own vitamin C internally. Humans can't. A mutation millions of years ago broke the gene responsible for it in our primate ancestors, who lived somewhere with enough vitamin C in their diet that losing the ability cost nothing at the time. It became a serious problem much later, when sailors on long ocean voyages, cut off from fresh fruit, began dying of scurvy from a genetic gap nobody even knew existed. For most of human history, calories were scarce and unpredictable. Bodies that could store fat efficiently during rare periods of abundance had a massive survival advantage during the famines that inevitably followed. Scientists call this the thrifty gene hypothesis. That fat-storing efficiency was a life-saving feature for thousands of generations. Then, in the last century, calorie-dense food became available constantly, everywhere, all the time. The same genetic strategy that once saved lives now quietly drives rates of obesity and type 2 diabetes that our ancestors never had to face. Your fear response was built for a world of immediate physical danger. A predator in the grass, a fall from a cliff. It floods your body with stress hormones designed for a burst of intense physical action. Fight or flight. But modern stress rarely requires either. An overdue email, a tense conversation, a notification on your phone. None of these can be punched or outrun. Yet your body still responds as if they can, flooding you with the exact same hormones evolved for a completely different kind of danger. And then there's your sweet tooth. In the ancestral environment, sugar was rare, found mostly in ripe fruit. And it signaled a fast, safe source of calories worth prioritizing. Craving it intensely was smart. Today, sugar is not rare. It's manufactured by the ton and added to nearly everything. The craving mechanism never got the update. It's still operating as if sugar might disappear tomorrow. Here's an interesting twist though. Not every evolutionary mismatch stayed broken. Most humans, historically, lost the ability to digest milk after infancy, which was completely normal for a mammal. But in a handful of populations that began herding cattle thousands of years ago, a mutation allowing lactase production into adulthood spread rapidly, because it unlocked an entirely new food source. Most people worldwide are still lactose intolerant to some degree. A genetic patch only reached some ancestral lines, and simply never spread to the rest. None of this means evolution failed. By every measure that actually matters, survival and reproduction, it succeeded spectacularly. It just never optimized for comfort or longevity, or a world that would change this fast, this suddenly. Your body isn't broken. It's just running ancient code in a radically modern environment. And every ache, allergy, and craving is a reminder of exactly how recent that mismatch really is.